Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, we've not mentioned blockchain for a few days now, have we? Now, although many people listening that follow the crypto space will be more than aware of Cardano, I suspect that you might not have heard of IOHK. And you should have, because they play such a huge role. IOHK is the leading blockchain research and development company behind the top 10 currency Cardano, which I've just mentioned. And they have also recently announced that it will present its research on Ouroboros Genesis at ACM Conference on the Computer and Communication Society. And this research tackles critical challenges that exist in proof-of-stake protocols. And with this latest version, the algorithm powering Cardano represents a significant milestone on the roadmap of research. So today, I don't want to be talking about going to the moon or buying Lambos or holding. I'm interested in exploring mainstream adoption, real-world use cases, and possibly the most important aspect of all, education. So today's guest is Aggelos Kiayias, who is the Chair in Cybersecurity and Privacy at the University of Edinburgh. And his research interests are in computer security, information security, applied cryptography, and foundations of cryptography, with a particular emphasis in blockchain technologies and distributed systems, e-voting, and secure multiparty protocols. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Edinburgh in Scotland so we can speak with Aggelos about the educational efforts and their lab in Edinburgh University. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to be here and talk to you. I'm Aggelos and I work in cryptography since about the 90s. So my current role here at Edinburgh, where I'm right now, I'm talking to you, is I'm chair in cybersecurity and privacy. I teach cryptography at the University of Edinburgh. I'm also the director of the Blockchain Technology Lab here at the university. At the same time, I'm the chief scientist of the IOHK, which is a company that focuses on the development and research on blockchain systems.
Fantastic. Now, for people just tuning in, Input-Output HK is a research and development company and industry leader in the fields of cryptography and distributed systems. Now, you're also known as the leading blockchain research and development company behind the top 10 currency Cardano. But can you just offer an overview of exactly what Input-Output HK is and what kind of problems you solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So IOHK has a very broad research agenda for developing blockchain and distributed ledgers. So certainly Cardano is one of the most important products that we're developing right now, and it's a very ambitious project. Basically, the idea is that this is an energy efficient, highly scalable, proof-of-stake-based blockchain system that can support arbitrary computations on it in a way also that can be customized to specific settings that are of high value. And at the same time, it has features like a self-governance system so that the protocol itself can evolve without having the need to go through processes like hard forks and things like that would essentially fragment its user base. So this is on its own right is a very large scale project that it has a lot of challenging problems that need to be solved. But at the same time, we do have a number of other things that we're looking at. Again, all of them belonging in this greater space of distributed ledgers and blockchain systems.
So can you tell me a little bit more about how you're studying new tools and paradigms for cryptographic research and also the architecture of cryptocurrencies and exactly what that involves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's something interesting to start with our discussion on that is to think about the problem that you want to solve at any given moment and the methodology of the approaches that you have to derive a solution. What happened with Bitcoin was quite interesting because Bitcoin came in a sense packaged as the solution, and the problem itself the problem is solved, even though you could understand it at a high level, it was still quite unclear what was its precise definition. So just to be a little bit more clear on that, if you want to, for example, like write a better sorting algorithm, right? So you have this specification of what you want to do, right? You have to write an algorithm, let's say, that takes an array, which is the elements are not in the correct order according to some predetermined order relation that exists, and your algorithm has to be able to rearrange the array and put it in order. So this is an exact specification of what your sorting algorithm can do. So once you have this, now you can start saying, here is a proposal, this is a correct sorting algorithm, and now you can start comparing it with other sorting algorithms. So one of the very important research goals that I started working with very early on, when I started working with blockchain systems, is try to understand these formal specifications that these distributed ledgers should have. Because only if you understand those, then you can start diving into specific algorithms and protocols and start saying, okay, here is like an algorithm that does this, and here is another. And now I'm able to compare the two, because it only makes sense to compare algorithms if they actually meet the same formal specifications. And this has to be both from a correctness and security. And this is something that makes cryptographic specifications so difficult. Like in the case of a sorting algorithm, let's say, you just have a type of correctness specification, right? The array goes in, the elements are not in order, your algorithm should put them in order. Nevertheless, when you go to the setting of cryptographic algorithms, you also have specifications that involve security properties. And security properties are always defined with respect to another algorithm which plays the role of the adversary. And ideally, you would like this other algorithm that plays the role of the adversary to be completely general. So just this to give you a little bit of a glimpse, let's say, of the type of problems that one faces when they try to write security specifications, and at the same time highlight how important it is to come up with that specification.
Absolutely. And you guys are incredibly busy at the moment as well. I think I read recently that you've got an ACM conference on computer and communication security and how the research is tackling critical challenges within the industry. I mean, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So ACM CCS is a conference on computers and communication security that is sponsored by ACM, the Association for Computing Machinery. So ACM is the largest organization worldwide that focuses on computer science. It sponsors basically the most important scientific events on computer science. And ACM CCS is basically the flagship conference of ACM on the topic of security for computer systems. So basically, if you do academic work in cybersecurity, this is one of the very few really top venues that people aspire to have their work included. So in the context of that, we were very excited to have the new version of our protocol, Ouroboros Genesis, being accepted for inclusion to this year's program. The conference took place in Toronto, Canada, just a couple of weeks ago. And I should say this is a very broad conference on all scientific aspects of cybersecurity. This year there were like 2 sessions on blockchain protocols, and we were very happy that we were there and presented our work. It was very nicely received by all our fellow cryptographers and cybersecurity colleagues, and it was good to be there.
And I don't think we get to hear enough about what goes on behind the scenes in the industry. So can you also tell me a little bit more about your educational efforts and your lab over there at Edinburgh University?
So first of all, here at Edinburgh University, the Blockchain Technology Lab is a very active hub for research on blockchain and distributed ledgers. There is about 20 researchers that are working full-time on all aspects of blockchain protocols. Our primary focus is developing basic infrastructure and analyzing the security of protocols. I mean, this is like one of the main research themes. The other main research themes is studying programming language aspects, because this is another very important dimension from the point of view of Cardano specifically, but also for the whole space in general. And these systems, in order to be truly useful, you have to be able to customize them to specific applications. So users should be able to write distributed applications, and if possible also, you should be able to customize the way you write applications so that the authors of distributed apps are capable of expressing the apps in a way that is clear for the specific application domain. So this is another very important dimension we are focusing in terms of research in the lab. And then you have incentives, network issues, and a wide array of other questions. So these are handled by our researchers. At the same time, there is a very active, if you want, exchange of ideas and projects with the students here at the university. I'm teaching myself a blockchain in distributed ledger course, which now it's the second year I'm teaching the course. It's very exciting to have 50 young undergrads and first-year master students taking the course. Many of them are getting to do their sort of final year project or master's thesis project on some topic related to blockchain technology. And they are engaging with some of the researchers at the blockchain lab. So there is nice relationship between the researchers that are engaged in doing solving various questions on the context of blockchain systems and the students that are attending, let's say, the blockchain course and then are participating in the cybersecurity curriculum here at Edinburgh University.
So where do you begin to enable the creation of verifiable but private cryptocurrencies? And also maybe just to set the scene, possibly talk me through your some of your partnerships with big names such as Zencash.
So first of all, regarding the architecture itself, its privacy, architecting privacy is one of the very difficult dimensions in blockchain systems. In some sense, and this is something very interesting to think about from a cybersecurity point of view, confidentiality and integrity are two properties that are, clashing with each other in some sense. So the more private you make something, what you expect is that the harder it would be to maintain its integrity and its auditability. So these are things that frequently they're not coming easy together. Blockchain systems, especially systems that are inspired by the Bitcoin blockchain and other similar systems, they do have a lot of exposure with respect to what they allow the public to see in terms of what the system does. They do have some privacy features, but these are still quite limited, which basically means that if you analyze what happens based on public information, it means that you can extract quite significant insights about what the users are doing in the system, which can be quite undesirable in terms of using the system in specific domains where minimum level of privacy has to be ensured. So this is a very, very important problem that needs to be solved, and I have to say that we are working on solving this in a number of different directions. On the one degree, we are exploring all types of cryptographic tools such as zero-knowledge protocols that can be used in conjunction with blockchain protocols, or if you want, on top of them, to facilitate a more privacy-preserving type of operation. So this is a very important research team right now that is within IOHK in the Blockchain Technology Laboratory. Now, with respect to Zencash, we are in active engagement. We are developing the treasury system that its objective is to facilitate a way for the system to the input of stakeholders in the system and produce a way for utilizing funds from a committed treasury with the objective to improve the blockchain or take decisions that have to be done across the whole set of stakeholders. So this is certainly something with the privacy, where the privacy dimension is very, very important. So for example, the treasury system, its decision-making component has to use all kinds of encryption type of layers to make it feasible to extract the decision or the direction where the community of stakeholders want to go without exposing any specific stakeholders regarding their personal choices. So this is always like this tricky part that you have also in all kinds of voting type of processes where you would like to have decision making that at the same time is coercion free. And only something that can be, that is private can be coercion free. What coercion free basically means here that I cannot actually, with certainty, know based on the outcome and the public audit elements that are available in the system, what is the choice that any specific stakeholder has provided for a certain decision that was to be made.
Now, for many people listening, they will know about you from your relationship with Cardano, who were mentioned earlier on in the podcast. But am I right in saying you're soon going to be parting company with the Cardano Foundation?
So I have to say, I guess there are two things that are conflated here. On the one side, we have Cardano, the system, which is the Cardano blockchain that IOHK is basically the main driving force in terms of its research and development. And then you have other entities in the space that were created for different purposes. So there was Ouroboros and the Cardano Foundation that had distinct roles from IOHK. And Ouroboros was supposed to cover the application side and Cardano Foundation the community side. So based on this announcement that I would assume a number of your listeners have actually seen the last few weeks, what happened was that Cardano Foundation management was essentially underperforming and not fulfilling its sort of mission. And the key point here is that IOHK is very committed to Cardano, the system, and what is the hope here is that everything is going to settle in a way which is ensure that Cardano, the system, will not be affected by any of that. Certainly, IOHK is fully backing up Cardano, the system, and all the situation Cardano Foundation would be clear about, because it's essentially nothing the issue with Cardano itself, but more of a management problem that exists right now.
Fantastic. Now, much of the technology that we've talked about today will deliver game-changer moments, but equally, it's in its infancy right now. So how do you see the next 12 to 18 months taking shape in terms of real-world use cases, mainstream adoption, and moving away from just projects built on future promises?
Yeah, so certainly this is the most important thing. The fact of the matter is that with all its promise, the technology right now that exists in distributed ledgers is still in its infancy. Systems are either too green and they can't actually, they don't have the full functionality that they aspire to have. And systems that do have some functionality, this functionality tends to be very shaky, error-prone, and developers that have actually tried to write distributed applications for the systems that are available right now, they know exactly what I mean. So it is our mission to develop and deliver systems that can reliably facilitate distributed application development and true decentralization. But nevertheless, this has to be done in a way that it's robust and resilient to faults. So there's a lot of layers here that are currently under development. And the hope here is that in the next year or so, we will reach a point that we do have truly decentralized general purpose blockchains that are easy to use for an average programmer, let's say, to develop a system that they want to deploy in an actual distributed environment. And at the same time, the systems we have, they're going to be decentralized in a convincing way, or in a true way, I should say, because there's a lot of problems with respect to centralization right now that we observe in systems that are currently in operation now. And this is exactly because being decentralized is something that cuts across many different layers of an actual real-world deployed system. So it's not enough, let's say, that the underlying protocol can be decentralized. It should also be the case that the incentives about deploying the protocol in the real world are aligned with being decentralized. And at the same time, it should be the case that the system has a way to evolve that does not hinge on centralized points of decision making. Because again, invariably, no matter what system you roll out at any given moment, it's impossible to get everything as they should be. And moreover, nothing remains the same. Requirements do change over time, and the system should be capable of evolving to meet the use cases that are relevant at any given moment. So it's impossible to get the system right, because right is something that has just a purely temporal, has a temporal dependency. And as a result, right here should be the ability of the system to evolve in a way which is also decentralized and aligns well with the incentives of the stakeholders. So from our point of view, what the work we're doing is really heavy infrastructure, in the sense we want an efficient, scalable backend that is capable to be customizable in any type of application domain that is of high value. And this is what we do hope that we're going to see happening in the next year or so. And we're certainly very much now on all the fronts that I mentioned before, doing very significant advances forward. Just to give you an example of that, if I may, is the work we're currently doing on sidechains. So sidechains is a type of construction, cryptographic construction that is able to connect distributed ledgers with each other and have them interoperate in a way that assets or other recorded objects in one ledger can be safely transferred in and out across a so-called pegging between two different blockchains or distributed ledgers in general. So these are like key pieces of a technology that will enable like a better interoperability in the context of distributed ledgers. So this is the type of technology that also the industry, wider distributed ledger industry, has very much put a meaning as being a fundamental enabler. And it's one of the areas that in the next couple of months we're going to be doing some substantial advances in terms of both publishing basic research that describes it, as well as providing an implementation for it that is consistent with our proof of stake protocol Ouroboros, which is running at the core of Cardano.
Well, we're now heading into the final few weeks of 2018, and we're going to be starting to think about the year ahead and what kind of opportunities that's going to represent. So is there anything else that's your primary focus in 2019, or anything else that you can share with us today?
Yeah, so one of the most important things from our point of view in 2019 is on the complete decentralization of Cardano, as well as its capability to support general smart contracts and arbitrary assets. So this is something that we are working on full force now. And complete decentralization will also come with a set of incentives. And actually, this is a line of work that I'm extremely excited about. The main reason here is that, as I mentioned already, being decentralized is also an incentive economics problem. And it's very interesting to think about how this problem was posed and failed to deliver on from the point of view of the Bitcoin blockchain. So Bitcoin came with its own set of incentives, which are quite simple to understand. There are rewards which are provided in every block and so forth. And the intention of the incentives is that they want to keep the system running. But at the same time, keeping the system running means that you would want to avoid the system converging in configurations which are undesirable. So what is an undesirable configuration for a distributed system? It's a system where everybody relies on a single node or a single entity to deliver the service. Because of course, this is not a centralized system. It's a system where essentially everyone relies on one entity to deliver the service, and now this entity becomes a single point of failure. So despite the fact that Bitcoin is designed as a decentralized system, its set of incentives that it has does not serve this cause very well. And we see the examples of this. Right now, there is a lot of centralization. I mean, this is something that people have observed over years, of course. This is not a new observation, that the system has a tendency to centralize to large pools that then themselves then become a very small committee that is in charge basically of the whole ecosystem. And this is clearly not in line with the original promise that the system had, that it will deliver a true decentralized back end over which you can do financial transactions and possibly also build applications on top of it. So solving that problem is extremely important if we are to deliver distributed ledgers that can actually lead to configurations that are truly decentralized. And what's something that's truly decentralized is that you have a real diverse set of stakeholders that are responsible for system maintenance without any single small subset of them being elevated to being responsible for the whole system. So this is something that over the last year we've been very actively working on. And I have to say that I'm very excited that over the summer we made available our first paper on the topic called Reward Sharing Schemes for State Pools, where we demonstrate how is it possible to design incentives completely different from the way the incentives are being laid out in the Bitcoin blockchain system, and then provably show that the system will converge to configurations that are decentralized in a true sense, in a sense that really captures this diverse set of maintainers that have to be responsible. So this is like one of the sort of exciting developments that I anticipate seeing now very soon within the early months of 2019. Our development team at IOHK is working on very actively in essentially folding out all these mechanisms within the Cardano system. And at the same time, we are continuing to do very active research on understanding the incentives behind making sure that the system remains decentralized. And that's an area that I think within 2019 we're going to have like a very wonderful set of results and outcomes out for our community.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on today. And for anybody listening that are obviously quite excited about what's going to happen in 2019 and all the milestones that you're going to reach, how can they remain in touch with you, be a member of your community, find out white papers and downloads, and also just contact a member of your team if they just want to educate themselves much further?
Yeah, so IOHK.io is the website of IOHK, and if people go there, they can find basically links to everything we do. There's a very detailed presentation of both the research and the engineering team. A number of all our white papers can be found in the library of papers that is there. And furthermore, there is a very extensive set of videos that demonstrates the work we do from many different angles. There are like whiteboard videos that have one of our researchers sitting in front of a whiteboard and presenting some of the technical results of some of the papers. Then you have interviews and general presentations from conferences. So there is a wealth of video material that people that listen now, they can actually go and find there and learn more about a lot of the research and development that takes place now at IOHK. So the website again is IOHK.io.
Well, I'll add all those notes, all those links to the show notes, just so people can find you nice and easily. It's a fascinating conversation, so many valuable takeaways today. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and taking the time. I know how busy you are at the University of Edinburgh right now, but for taking the time to speak with me and helping educate the listeners as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil, for having me on the show.
What I loved about today's conversation is not about making a quick buck. It's about the building blocks of the future and the roles of these emerging technologies. Web 3.0 is just around the corner, and these are just a few of some of the transformational changes that are waiting on the horizon. And whether you find that daunting or exciting is going to depend entirely on your mindset. But make no mistake, it's coming. All the signs are there, and we prove that with these daily podcasts and the conversations that we're having. But as always, this show is not about some tech guy loving everything that he sees. It's about your input too. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, because I want to make you a part of the conversation too. Now, after my rant, I will let you get back to refreshing your blockfolio. Thank you all for listening, and say until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.